And this is a little bit of a shift. For a first time, we have DOYLE Galleries as one of our speakers and sponsors. I'd like to introduce Kunter Kula, who's the Director of Fine Art at DOYLE Auctioneers and Appraisers. He's here with Joanne Mornay, who has graciously blessed us with her presence and DOYLE sponsorship. And Kunter oversees the auctions and strategy, working with collectors, dealers, fiduciaries on acquisitions. They have great stories. We heard some of the stories last night of the auctions that they've conducted. And we're going to hear a little bit about fine art and how it plays into estate planning. Kunter.
Hello, everyone. Great to meet you. Great to be here today. My name is Kunter Kula. Thank you, Lou, for the introduction. I'm the Director of Fine Arts at DOYLE. I'd like to share today a couple of lessons about lessons learned in collection management practices as well as estate planning practices as we see it from our side. DOYLE is an auction house and an appraisal company. So we do, as an auction house, we bring collections and estates to markets to sell. And collections can be very, very different things. It can be fine art, it can be furniture and decorative arts, it can be jewelry, watches, and many other sort of areas that we service. And as appraisers, we regularly provide fair market valuations for estate planning and estate tax appraisals. So we work with a lot of fiduciaries and our collectors in planning their estates for eventual sort of death and disposal of the collection, should they choose to do so. And more specifically, myself, I am a Director of Fine Art, so I work with fine art objects and bring them to the markets with our collectors and fiduciaries. And we work within DOYLE. We handle anything from what we call old master painting, so this is circa 15th century, all the way to present day. A little bit about DOYLE. We are a company founded in 1962 in Manhattan. We're still headquartered in Manhattan in that building you can see above me. But we rely on a strategy to meet our collectors where they collect, where they live. So we have locations in Beverly Hills and Camden Drive, Boston Newbury Street, Charleston King Street, Palm Beach, Brazilian Avenue, all locations where sort of wealth and collectors kind of gather together and build their lives. We like meeting them where they are because that allows us to sort of understand the market, the buyer pools in the market, and in return be able to bring in the best prices we can achieve at auction scenarios. We're doing our best year this year. Jewelry is our top grossing sort of sale category, followed by fine art, and there has been a growing number of, as the sort of the generational wealth sort of transfers over, more and more things are coming to the market and the auction business over the years. We have seen this. Before we sort of dive deep into it, I wanted to sort of kind of discuss what is a collection. You're seeing obviously some objects, and I'd like to entice you sort of hopefully with some colorful objects here on the screen. We have, these are some of the objects that you probably think of when you think of an estate sale. Furniture and decorative arts, paintings. This is a post-war painting by Adolf Gottlieb that we sold for $756,000. Jewelry, vivid blue diamond by Bulgari, very sort of rare, which has achieved over $1 million at DOYLE. And these are some of the objects that we have essentially handled in the most recent sort of years at DOYLE. At the same time, the meanings of collections are changing. There are sort of younger generations sort of coming into collecting, and they're so much more interested in experiential collecting. They sort of maybe do not collect the same things that their parents used to collect. So we're increasingly seeing new categories of collections open up. And this is important as you're planning estates, etc. Things that are sort of considered of not value or sort of minimal value may end up being of significant value down the line. So you have to always keep an open mind to sort of what that collection or the passion or objects of passion might look like today and in the future. Some examples here. On the left, we have a gold plaque from Stephen Sondheim. This is the gold record for the soundtrack of West Side Story. We've just sold this in June. We sold the estate of Stephen Sondheim. It was a very successful sale, brought in a lot of new audiences for us at DOYLE as well. But this is sort of one of the categories that is emerging, as well as Hermes handbags, Birkin and Kelly. These handbags can sell anywhere from $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to about $250,000 for a single handbag. I know some ladies who have tens, hundreds of these. So if you add up the value, you will see that they do add up to significant amounts in an estate planning situation. as well as a Freddie Mercury autograph letter and a drawing. Again, these are sort of the ephemera things that people are really starting to collect more and more and are much more interested in these days, as well as all the other categories, obviously, that continue to sell. So going into sort of fine arts, this is my area of expertise, so I can sort of briefly talk about sort of fine art market a little bit with you. If you've read, newspapers articles in the last 5-10 years, you've probably seen many articles about, the value of art constantly going up. Sometimes they make comparisons to the stock market and say it beats the stock market. There are financial products you can buy today to invest in the art market. These are all sort of general sort of statements that is made for marketing purposes, etc. But expertise is very important in sort of collections management and understanding sort of the buyer pools. And within the fine art world, we do see sort of different trends in different subcategories of fine art. So just to briefly sort of walk over what we have here, and this is just so that I'm referencing it correctly. This is a May Moses Art Index. This is an art index that the art world uses typically. This is a report from spring 2024, so about 6 months behind, but uses a sort of a repeat sale methodology to sort of come up with these numbers essentially. So in the last decade, and this is sort of the most up-to-date results as of spring, we have seen stable markets in American paintings and British paintings. There has been also a move towards safety in Impressionist and Modernist paintings. So these are your Picassos, your Matisses, your Monets, the really well-established names. So the market there has been sort of steadily increasing. A huge increase in Latin American paintings. This is with the sort of the incoming collector base from Latin American countries, as well as sort of discoveries or rediscoveries of certain artists that have emerged out of Latin America, women artists, as well as surrealist artists who have gained a lot of traction in the market in the recent years. Contrary to all of this, New Now is a category, basically what we would consider sort of hyper-contemporary. So these are all paintings that were painted after 2000. These are sort of what we call wet paintings. They're coming out of the artist studio and entering into the stream of the market. And as of spring 2024, this segment of the market actually contracted sort of significantly. The reason for it is really this segment of the market is the most speculative market. It really benefited from the sort of the cheap interest rates and the sort of the free cash flows that people have seen sort of in the last 10-20 years before our kind of rising interest rates. And I think the rising interest rates in the last couple of years have certainly dampened the sort of speculative part of the markets. So as you can see, there is sort of a variance in the sort of segments of the market. And when you're looking at a client's collection, for instance, it is important to understand what type of art they're collecting. And this is true for every other category that we sell that has a market in the auction world. With that, I'd like to move into sort of 2 anecdotal examples. Hopefully that might clarify some things for you. These are some estates that we have handled. What we're looking at here is basically 2 sculptures on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side. Left-hand side is a Jacques Lipchitz, is a modernist artist of the 20th century, has sort of, pushed the envelope in sort of amorphed sculptural works. And on the right, you're seeing Henry Moore, again, another modernist artist of the 20th century. So peers in many ways. This is a family who purchased the top 2, well, the bottom 2 works actually are the ones that they acquired in circa about 1987. And when they acquired it, they were roughly of equal value. The Jacques Lipchitz was acquired for $15,000. The top right portion, it's a comparable example. It's not the exact same piece that they purchased, but the comparable is showing you $28,000, just to sort of illustratively explain that they were of roughly value, and people, the family always thought of them as having roughly equal value. Subsequently, they bequeathed the works to each one of their sons. And in 2018, when we handled one of the estates, we sold the work over on the left here, as you can see. Jacques Lipchitz brought us $26,000. But the same year when the Henry Moore was sold, it brought in about almost $100,000. So there was a variance and a divergence in prices for these 2 artists. And this is sort of to illustrate the importance of understanding the value of the collection is going to change over time. And at DOYLE, we recommend typically to update fair market values, get updated fair markets every 3 to 5 years for a collection like this, to be sure that you're sort of planning the estate correctly with the right sort of mindset and the right intentions. A second example is also about the changing nature of expertise. So we're looking at sort of Fernand Léger's works on paper here. Léger is a 20th century modernist artist, again, so it typically paints in this style, but there's a sort of distinct sort of sense of two types of styles that he does. He sometimes paints things monochromatically and sometimes with color. And even during his time, things that were painted with color have sold about maybe almost double the price of what they were, the pieces that are monochromatic would sell for. Not a sort of a huge surprise. People like color and they pay more for those types of things. These are all illustrative examples of sales from 2024 to show you that there's almost a doubling of the price between works that are monochromatic and works with color. The story goes, Léger was for painting in a studio throughout the 50s, married Nadia Kodosevich, another Polish artist, in 1952. They got married, and Nadia was working out of Léger's studio. They were working as co-artists, even though they did their own kind of body of work. Subsequently, Léger died in 1955. Nadia, being an artist herself, understood what Léger's art market looked like. There were a lot of works still in the studio that were not sort of sold out of the studio. And Nadia subsequently started selling these works in the market over a period of time. We did not know at the time, when these works were coming into the market, that Nadia was at times touching up some of the paintings from Léger, adding colors, knowing that it would sell for a higher price. And some of these works that came out of the studio at that time have been sold. Some of them have been resold in the market with the sort of authenticity not in doubt. In the last 10 to 15 years, however, the scholarship around this has changed. And now that with the knowledge of Nadia's hand in some of these pieces, the buyers are increasingly looking for impeccable provenance, going back to the artist's hands before they buy any works on paper by Léger. Unfortunately, there is no sort of some artists have these boards or authentication boards or sort of a singular sort of expert that the market looks at to sort of determine authenticity of an artwork. In this case, there still isn't one. So unfortunately, most auction houses, including us, are unable to sell works on paper by Léger unless we can have a clear provenance going back to the artist's hands from one owner to another, and it can be proven to the buyers. So this is sort of an interesting dilemma. I think probably in the next 10 to 15 years, there might be a change in scholarship again, and we might see a new board formed around Léger's works, which might be able to authenticate it, etc. But up until then, artists, our collectors who have sort of Léger works on paper are struggling to sort of find buyers in the market today. And then lastly, I'd like to sort of touch on a couple of discovery stories. So, we're object people. We love to look at things, and we always love to discover new things. And particularly when you discover incredible objects in forgotten places, that sort of makes our day. 3 examples from our recent sort of sales, roughly recent, 2012, so not too recent, but this was an estate that came to us via a lawyer of ours. The estate was almost closing. They had done an appraisal. There wasn't anything of particular value that would be suitable for auction within the estate in the traditional sense of the word, right? It was fine art, furniture, decorative arts, jewelry, etc. We were tapped to sort of provide a second opinion. We went into the house. We were sort of scouring everything, looking through the paperwork, etc. When one of our colleagues found a letter signed G. Washington in a manila folder. After extensive research, we have figured out that this was actually original. In fact, the letter was auctioned at an auction during the Civil War era to raise funds for the Civil War. And subsequently, we sold it for about $365,000, which was a record at the time for a single letter by George Washington. The second example we have here is again, a family heirloom. This was acquired, a ring that was acquired around the Great Depression time. The family had broken out in that sort of depressive times and sort of had finally made some money, and they acquired this blue diamond ring. Blue diamonds are extremely rare. They constitute about 0.01% of all diamonds. The family, it was a family heirloom. It was handed from one generation to another, but they never, the family referred to it as a pinky ring, right? Like, so they always thought of it of value, significant emotional value, but did not realize the value intrinsically, what the value of the piece was. And when we were able to bring it to auction, it brought in about $725,000, which was a big surprise to the family, and we were very happy to be able to offer it to the market. And then the last object you're seeing here is a Bugatti sculpture. It's a sculpture, it's a 20th century sculptor, again, sort of in the modernist canon, impressionist modernist canon. And this was a piece of art that was used as a doorstop in one of our clients' homes. So nobody paid attention to it as they're sort of doing their estate tax sort of appraisals and going around. But one of our specialists have sort of figured out what it was, and we were able to bring it to market and brought in $221,000. So, with that, I think my main takeaways from this sort of presentation would be obviously the value, the importance of getting updated appraisals for collections, and this encompasses many things, from paintings to handbags today and watches and jewelry. Doing it every 3 to 5 years so you understand what the trend lines are in the collection and where they're going, and you can plan ahead and accordingly for estate planning purposes. As well as understanding that the expertise and the market shifts over a period of time. So it is always important to sort of find the right expertise in the market to give you the best direction and to partner with those people to guide your clients and collections that you're guiding. With that, I'm happy to end my presentation, but open to any questions if anybody has anything. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Kunter.